Thank you, Gary. Well, our speaker today is an example of addressing the fifth and sixth areas of focus of Rotary International, those being supporting education and growing local economies. Jeremiah McCoy is the current operations manager for the Bellingham Makerspace. Jeremiah has an eclectic background. He's a former aerospace test engineer. He was the operations manager of Kombucha Town and is an inventor and a musician. He joined the board of the Bellingham Makerspace in 2018 and became their operations manager in the summer of 2019. Jeremiah is passionate about helping people bring their ideas into reality and working out inventive solutions to simple and complex problems. Jeremiah, welcome to the Rotary Club of Bellingham. We're eager to hear the story of the Bellingham Makerspace. You have the floor.
Thank you, Paul. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's wonderful to meet all of you lovely people. And I'm glad to see that we've got such a wonderful, active group of Rotarians here in Bellingham. Paul had asked me to talk a little bit about what a makerspace is, just for anybody who's not too familiar with the concept, because it is kind of a new phenomenon over the last 15 or so years that has been gaining a lot of popularity in this country and around the world. I'm actually at the Makerspace now, so that I can give you a small sort of virtual tour of what the current version of the Makerspace looks like. And then I'll talk a little bit about the history of the space, the history of the organization, how we ended up in the spot we're in now. And we'll go through our yearly impact report to talk about everything we've done in the last year. And then I'll kind of wrap it up with a little bit of a conversation about what we're looking at for the future. Just a heads up, since we are here in the public space, I do need to keep the mask on. It's just part of our policy. So if I'll try to speak loudly, and hopefully you can hear me. A makerspace is essentially any place where you have like a collection of tools and people that know how to use those tools. It's kind of a broad concept, and it started in an educational background in like universities, where they would need to have a sort of a hands-on lab, sort of like the wood shop extended. And in the last 20 years or so, we've seen a rise in what they call rapid manufacturing, which includes things like 3D printing and laser cutting and some more advanced manufacturing techniques that are becoming much more affordable and accessible for ordinary folk. Now, they're still not so easy to get that you can just, there's still a bar to entry, especially if you're going to have a large number of tools. And there is a great sort of economic benefit to having a shared cooperative space where people who don't have the resources, for example, to buy, a whole bunch of wood shop machines and a 3D printer and all these other things, to have a space where they can just become a member. And it's similar to like a library for tools. Except rather than checking the tools out, you come in and use them in the space. It's also a sort of a learning group, right? Like it's also very important for us that we share knowledge. It's a community organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We get by mostly on volunteer labor. We have 2 part-time staff. And we put together classes so that we have teachers that teach various techniques on how to use the tools that we have to make all kinds of creative stuff. So that gives you kind of an idea of what the makerspace is. It's a sort of phenomenon that goes along with something called the maker movement, which is people, rather than buying things from overseas, or getting things that are pre-manufactured, there's been this trend in the last, 10, 15 years of people really getting interested in how to make stuff themselves, whether that's like programming things with circuitry or 3D printing things, little components that they can then put together, or just using some of these more advanced manufacturing techniques to make artwork, because there's a lot of really incredible things you can do with something if you have access to, for example, to a laser cutter. So that's kind of where the idea came from. Mary Elliott, who is not with us here at the moment, is the founder. She's the current executive director. She started the original Bellingham Makerspace, which came into the world as the Bellingham Foundry, which some of you may have seen the sign downtown. It was in a sort of a smaller location downtown in, I want to say Garden Street. And she just had this idea. She's a maker herself. She's also in love with the idea of having a makerspace, and she saw it as a really important thing for Bellingham and Whatcom County, because it gives and provides people access to the knowledge and the tools to be able to express, their creativity and start their own businesses. And there's a whole host of different educational and economic benefits that come along with having a makerspace. So she invested some of her own personal money into buying the first set of equipment, set the space up, got some business partners, realized that it made more sense as a nonprofit than as a profit-making model. So they applied for and got the 501c3 while they were still at that location, and then that's when they changed the name to the Bellingham Makerspace. And then after that, they formed a sort of a partnership with Western and moved to a spot that is part of the Technology Development Center that's down by the waterfront in that sort of large warehouse building. So it went from downtown, it moved to the Technology Development Center with a sort of a partnership with Western. And then about a year ago is when, well, I guess it was about a year and a half ago, is when the lease that Western had on that portion of the building, which they shared with BTC, expired. And Western decided that they didn't want to continue on the lease, and BTC decided that they wanted to basically take the whole space, and that they didn't really have much room left for the little makerspace that we had down there. And so we had to find a new home. And that kind of started, in the fall of 2019. We started looking, and in January, we got contacted by Bellis Fair Mall. And the manager at the Bellis Fair Mall had heard about another property that the company that owns the mall manages in Tucson, Arizona, that had a makerspace in the mall, and that the makerspace in the mall was attracting people that normally wouldn't go to the mall, and that they've had a problem in the mall of, having less and less people coming in to just buy retail, especially with everything sort of transferring online. The rise of online retailing has really been hard on the mall itself. So they reached out to us. They said, hey, we've got an open space. And one of our members was pretty instrumental in having the conversations with them about what our requirements were, and size and budget. And we found essentially a perfect spot. So last February is when we did our big move out of the original location, which was down, like I said, or well, the one by the waterfront, out of the Technology Development Center and out here to the mall. And we had to figure out essentially how to partition and divide and get tables and chairs. And all of a sudden we were thrust in this huge space, and we still had all of the tools, but we didn't have the furniture. We didn't, all the remodeling stuff we had to do ourselves. And so right in the middle of figuring out how to plan for all of that, the pandemic hit. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail when we get to the year report that we put together, the impact report. We'll talk about all of those details there. But we are now basically just about ready to be fully open again as soon as the COVID restrictions are which they are gradually lifting. Everything's in place now. We've got all of our tables and chairs and partitions, and it's really come together. So I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a tour and show you what it looks like. So we'll start out. I'm gonna walk over here to the sort of the front room and just give you a walkthrough of what it looks like when you come in the door. So we have our gate, which is down right now, but this is the mall out there, and we're right next to Dick's Sporting Goods. And then you come through here, we've got a little mural there, and we've got some, fixtures for people to put artwork on. We've got art and other things that they make. We've got some shelving that kind of showcases the different types of things that we make with the different tools and technologies that we have here. We've got our little greeting booth. So that's where people can check in. And then this little entranceway here, this is all sort of the public area for people to just kind of wander in through the mall. People that are curious, they want to take a tour, they want to get to know what the space is about. This is our sort of reception area. And then we'll have people sign in at the little computer here. And then you can come back to essentially the members area, which has all of our different tool areas in it, which is quite, I don't know if you can quite get a grasp for how much space we actually have here, but there's quite a bit of room. So, for example, along these walls, we have different technology stations. And it starts out with the 3D printing. We've got a couple of different 3D printers that you can use. And these print in plastic, various types, mostly PLA, which is actually made out of cellulose from corn. And then we have, and I'll give you a little example. Well, I'll show you a little video too of what 3D printing looks like at the end, a little YouTube share thing. Then we've got an electronics station. So we've had a lot of donated electronics over the years, and we've got signal generators, and we've got oscilloscopes, and we've got soldering stations, and we've got bins and bins and bins and bins of little electronic components and parts. So if you're trying to work on a specific type of project, a circuit, an Arduino, lighting systems, like we've got pretty much everything you need right there. Over here, we've got our sewing section. So we had a lot of sewing machines donated over the summer because people got they delved very deep into sewing masks, as we'll talk about a little bit later. The PPE effort was a big deal and brought together a whole lot of people. And a lot of people got back into sewing again. And then some of them realized, hey, we've got these old sewing machines. If you guys can fix them, we'll donate them to you. So we ended up with a very extensive sewing area. Right now I'm walking through our studios. So we have these little 10 by 10 cubicles set up that have, a workbench and some locking storage. And basically some of them are still open. But some of them are full, and you can see people basically set it up with all their own gear. And this is, for example, a member of ours, a fellow who makes flow lightsaber props for dancing and fighting and stuff. So we've got a bunch of work tables out here. It's a common area for working, and then the sort of studios around the edge. We've got our little laser cutter here, which is actually not so little. It's one of the most powerful machines that we have here, and definitely brings a lot of draw. And we have vinyl cutting, There's this little vinyl cutter. That's how we make all of those signs the labels that we have on everything. Like the vinyl cutting sign is made on the vinyl cutter. And we've even got things like a vacuum former and some large format printers. And we've got a screen printer over here for doing t-shirts and prints. And then there's a storage area back there with a little breakfast nook. But right through this door is the wood shop. So we were lucky enough that we got a space that actually had a whole separate room with a concrete floor that was isolated from the rest of the space, because all the things back here are very noisy and very, very messy. They make a lot of dust, and we're just gonna have more soon too. We're getting a donation from Grizzly Tools of a few additional tools that'll be back here, but we've got all the basic wood shop tools you would want: planer and a joiner and various saws, you know, bandsaw, table saw, chop saw, and then we've got a CNC machine. So for cutting out, using a computer basically to control a router that can cut out, you know, various types of signs or 3D lines. Basically, it's like a computer controlled drill bit that'll move around and can, you know, cut lots of different shapes. And then we've got a little bit of a metal shop back here. So we've got some, you know, grinding wheels and sanders, and then like the little shop task, which is a sort of a metal mill lathe combination. And so we've got a lot of different capabilities in terms of tools. And then we also have, there's additional space, which is kind of the largest single space in the area, which is the classroom. And the classroom, we have a little stage set up over there. We've got several tables, all, you know, nicely socially distanced from each other, and can't wait to start being able to offer classes that will be able to fill up this classroom again. We also would do events. In the past, you know, we used to work with like a Linux meetup group and Arduino meetup groups and Repair Cafe, and there was a group called the Men's Shed that we worked with on some woodworking projects. So we've worked with a lot of different community organizations over the years, and you know, one of the things that we used to be able to provide, which we will be able to provide again once, you know, once the world opens back up, is just a space for people to come in and meet, which is really important. So yeah, that's the basic tour.
Jeremiah,
Yeah.
you've got about a little bit less than 5 minutes of presentation time left, so I would suggest skipping the 3D demo
Okay.
and focusing on what happened with making masks
Yes.
in Makerspace. I think that'd be relevant to our Rotarians.
Sounds good. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and show you guys the impact report here. All right, so this is what we were up to in the last year. This is oh, let's see, the Zoom thing's getting in the way. There we go. Okay, so I told you we moved into a new location. We also provided a lot of PPE for Whatcom County and the first responders. So these are some of the connections that we have. This is just kind of an example of various organizations that we work with on the national level and also the local level. I mentioned the Men's Shed. There's also Technology Alliance Group, Nation of Makers, Art and Happiness, and soon we're going to be starting a partnership with Whatcom Intergenerational High School. This is the move. This sheet talks about the move. I talked about that in the beginning there, where we had moved from the waterfront and relocated to our new space here in the mall. So after we had just finished up with the move into the new location, we had to suspend all the activities because the Well, because there was the shutdown. The county and the hospital reached out to us pretty much the same weekend that the quarantine started, because we didn't really know what we were going to be able to do as far as whether we were considered an essential business or whether we needed to close. And then, like I said, the couple of members of the county council reached out to us along with the hospital, and they said, hey, we've got a lot of people out here in the county that are making cloth masks, and they're just taking them to hospitals in big bags and dropping them off. And the hospitals haven't been asking, and they don't know if they're sanitized. And we really need some help to make sure that everything's done in like a proper way. And you guys have a place and you know how to make stuff, right? You're a makerspace. Can you help us get all these masks to people? And we said, yes, absolutely, we can do that. So we pivoted from getting ready to reopen to becoming essentially a center distribution point for cloth masks and the plastic face shields that you can see here in the picture, that are 3D printed, and they have an acrylic face guard that's laser cut or CNC machined. And we basically ended up having a lot of different partnerships with, as you can see, there's a list down here. Lithex Northwest, they cut out the acrylic on the face shields. Windermere Real Estate helped us with the assembling of the face shields. The Restore helped us set up a production line for Tyvek gowns. The Assistant League and the Mass Collective, they helped us with distributing the cloth masks. We set up a sanitization chamber here, an ozone-based sanitizing room, and we had a door in the back that was a no contact desk where people could come and drop off masks that they had made. And we were also picking up and distributing large amounts of donated cloth, cutting the cloth to size. We managed to secure a supply of elastic that went a really long way, and we had little kits in little paper bags that would make 20 masks worth of elastic, and the little metal bits for the nose. And people would come and pick those up, drop off masks that they'd made. We put them in the sanitization chamber, and we set up a database in combination with the Wacom Unified Command for people to request PPE when they needed it. And they could request either the acrylic shields, the cloth masks, or the Tyvek gowns. And the numbers on that, over the course of the summer, we helped with the distribution of some 36,500 cloth masks, 3,700 plus face shields, and over 700 isolation gowns. So here's some pictures of us in the midst of that project. This is Mary here on the top right. You can see all of the face shield bands that were 3D printed and brought in by the community, and we had hospital workers wearing the shields that we provided there at Peace Health. And that's just a little testimonial from them. Let's see, we also have a computer cluster that one of our members set up to run simulations. So we have also been adding to the computing process, or the computing power of searching for cures. And then we did get to reopen briefly in September. Let's see, how much time do I have?
We should probably move into Q&A pretty soon.
Okay.
Caroline?
Yeah, and so we're doing classes, making things happen. Yeah. A lot of this stuff I went over sort of while I was giving the tour. So, I just wanted to make sure you guys got a chance to actually see the space itself. And you guys can also find, if you're interested, and more of this information is available on our website. You can download this PDF file just by going to bellinghammakerspace.org and read about more of the details if you want. All right, so stop there. All right, so I think we've got 5 minutes or so for questions and answers. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll start out. Jeremiah, what's maybe some of the most unique products that people have come in and made on the 3D printers? I saw one big globe-looking wood structure in a prior slide there.
Well, the big globe wood structure was a project that we did that was installed downtown. That was done essentially in the wood shop with the men's shed.
Okay.
And that was a very visible and very popular project. It was part of a grant. As far as the 3D printing goes, let's see. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do on a 3D printer. Let me see if I can give you an example.
Gary, how are we doing on time?
3 minutes.
Okay.
3 minutes. All right. So I'll just give you a quick example. This is one of my own inventions, and it's 3D printed, and it prints out into about a dozen different parts. So it prints out on like a flat plate, and then you can take the parts and assemble them together. Matter of fact, I think there's one on the plate right now, just to give you an example of how it works.
I was going to say, what does it do?
So a 3D printer works a lot like...
No, I mean what you made.
Oh, what does it do? Oh, it's a stand that holds a cell phone. So it prints out like that, and then it assembles into this, and it folds up, like I showed you, into, you know, essentially something that fits on a keychain. And then when you fold it out, it goes on your phone. And holds your phone up.
Very cool.
Paul?
Yes, Locke.
This is Locke. I have a possible project interest. Is there a contact number for Jeremiah?
Yeah, you can call, well, actually, the best way is to contact us through email, which is at manager@bellinghammakerspace.org.
Can you put that on the chat,
Yes.
Jeremiah?
Okay, why don't I take it back?
Also,
Jeremiah, thank you for your program today.
just wanted to say one quick thing too, is that we are also looking for volunteers. We are a volunteer-run organization, and we use a combination of both fundraising and volunteering to keep us open. So if you're interested in learning more about the Makerspace, feel free to contact me, come in for a tour. And if you're interested in learning more or volunteering, you can do all of that through the website.
Good, thank you very much. Rotary round of applause. Before I give you a real brief